Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Nahmaduhu ala Rasul Kareem. The next महफूज तिलावत कुरान पाक के वक्त क्या तसव्वुर होना चाहिए. When we are reading the Quran Sharif, what should we picture, what should we have in mind? फरमाया कि दुनिया की नेमतें आखिर की नेमत का ज़िल और साया है. आखिर की नेमत के मुतल्लक़ अरशादे के वफ़ीदार के फ़लितनाफ़िसल मुतनाफ़िसून कि उन नेमतों में रग़बत करने वालों को रग़बत करना चाहिए. As it starts off by saying that whatever blessings we have, whatever good we have here, these are the shadows, the shades of the ni'mats we are going to see in the Akhirat. And concerning the ni'mats of the Akhirat, Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran Sharif that we should be attracted, we should have enthusiasm towards these those who are enthusiastic, those who've got a bit of motivation should really exert themselves in trying to get these ni'mats. इसी वजह से सूफिया कराम दुनिया की निमत को इस्तेमाल करते हैं. So it is bearing this in mind, the Sufiya Karam, they make use of the ni'mats of this dunya. उनको यहाँ से अंगूर, सेब, बिरयानी, कोरमा, शीरमाल वगैरह में वैसी ही लिज्जत आती है जैसी नामे आखिरत में आती है. This is very interesting that they eat with a great degree of delight in what is presented to them. The food has got to them, it has an exotic taste, let us put it that way. And the reason is that the grapes, the biryani, the apples, the korma, the shirma, that's a special type of milk bread, they have such enjoyment as one would have for the ni'mats of the year after. खाने पीने में जो मज़ा बुज़ुर्ग को आता है वो बड़े से बड़े बादशाह और वज़ीर को भी नहीं आता. The pleasure, the enjoyment that the buzurgs get in their meals, in their food, in the liquors that they drink, this is the greatest of kings and ministers don't get that same enjoyment with all their fancy foods, obviously. क्योंकि औलिया अल्लाह एन इस्तेमाल के वक्त भी उन नेमत को अल्लाह ताला की तरफ से समझते हैं. And this is something that the awliya Allah have, that when they are eating, they are completely aware, or they have in mind that what they are eating is something that Allah has sent down. It's a ni'mat that Allah has sent down. So every sip, every gulp, every morsel of food that they eat they've got this, that this is not just from a supermarket, it's not just from what somebody has sent, but this is something that Allah has sent through these various means for them to enjoy. Allah इन महबूब के और अल्लाह उनका महबूब है और ज़ाहिर के महबूब की दी हुई चीज़ में मज़ा आता है. And because they have tremendous they have a tremendous passionate love for Allah, and it is obvious that if somebody for whom you have a passionate love, if that person gives you something, you are going to enjoy it more than if you just got it from anywhere else. उनको हर चीज़ में लुत्फ़ व मज़ा आता है. Everything that they have, they get a certain delight and enjoyment out of it. और उनका तसव्वुर है कि ये नेमत अल्लाह की तरफ से है, but ही है, उनको सोचना नहीं पड़ता. And they have this awareness, this thought in mind that this is all from Allah Ta'ala. And for them it's axiomatic. That's a fancy word. What it means is that to them it's obvious, it's apparent. It's not something you have to think. I wonder where does this come from? How did it get? No, they don't have to. They don't have to think at all. Immediately they put a sip of water or whatever in the mouth. The moment they take a lookman and put in the mouth, immediately they realize that it's really Allah who's feeding them. That this is from Allah. जिस तरह तिलावत कुरान पाक में उनको ये तस्वुर होता है कि ज़बान मेरी है, किरात उनकी, यानी मेरी ज़बान से अल्लाह ताला पढ़ रहे हैं. So when they recite the Quran Sharif, they have the same type of awareness, the same type of picture in mind that the Quran Sharif is the word of Allah. So when they are reciting the Quran Sharif, they realize that they themselves are reciting it, but it's not really their words that's coming out of it, but this is actually the word of Allah that is coming out through that tongue. And so the Quran Sharif is not a book, so to say. It's not something that is printed and it's read. It's a qiraat, it's a reading. And this is something the kuffar don't understand. And we heard the kissa of how in England the British, they felt that, look, if they were to destroy all the Quran Sharif, they'd be able to do away with the Muslims. So our Hazrat mentioned this at the time of the British Raj, the one particular person tried to gather all the Quran Sharif and threw them in the river, so much so, in those days they didn't have printing machines, handwritten, so water would sort of remove the ink. The rivers became black from the ink of the Quran Sharif that he threw into the river. Another person came, a friend of this Englishman, and says, "What you doing?" He said, "No, I'm destroying all the Quran Sharif, getting rid of the Muslims." So this is you wasting your time. He said there was some tulaba there, called him, recite, he recited Quran Sharif. So no matter how they try and destroy the Quran Sharif, they don't succeed. The Quran Sharif is not a written word. It's the word of Allah that comes into the heart of a person. So our brother says, in the same way, the example that we can get, जिस तरह को तौर पर मूसा अलैहिस्सलाम से बिकलामी के वक्त दर्ख से अल्लाह ताला बोल रहे थे. So in the same way that when Hazrat Musa अलैहिस्सलाम went on Jabal Tur, and from the bush uh, some speech came out, and this was Allah Ta'ala's speech. So it wasn't the bush that was speaking, but the sound came from the bush, but it was Allah Ta'ala's speech that was coming through the bush. So they have this thought in mind, जिससे तिलावत की लज्जत दो बाधा होती है. इसी तरह दुनियावी नेमतों के हक ताला की तरफ से होने के सबब से उनकी लज्जत से बढ़ जाती है. So the awliya Allah, by having this concept of or picture in their mind, the amount of pleasure they get is unimaginable. Just like the nemas of the dunya, they have the same thought in mind, and the amount of taste and delight they get increases. कि गोया हाथ नज़र नहीं आता मगर ये उसके हाथ से आई है. As if the hand is not visible, but this is all being sent to me through the hand of Allah Ta'ala, metaphorically speaking. मगर ये उसके यहाँ से आई है. हुक्माए उम्मत फुका ने भी बास चीज़ों के जवाज़ में ये हिकमत बयान की है. So the fuqaha, the savants or the wise people of the ummah, uh, in the giving permission for certain items, they have also mentioned this particular bit of wisdom कि है चुनाचे साहेब हिदाया ने रशीम की गोट जायज़ होने की ये दलील अकली बयान फरमाई है कि दुनिया का रशीम जन्नत के रशीम का नमूना हो जाएगा. 4 उंगली संजाफ के तौर पर मर्द को जायज़ है, जिससे जन्नत की नेमतों का तस्वर होकर नेक अमल में रुग़बत होगी कि आमाल साले पर ऐसी नेमतें मिलेगी. So, bearing this in mind, the fuqaha have allowed, for example, a hem or brocade of 4 fingers of silk on men's clothing. We all know that men are not allowed to wear silk, but the fuqaha says that, look, if it's not, the hem is not more than 4 fingers, it will be allowed. And this is the wisdom behind this jawaz of this permission, is that in the dunya we are experiencing just a little portion of the ni'mats of the hereafter, and therefore by having that bit of silk as a hem, it will remind you of the ni'mats that are waiting in Jannat, and therefore it will be a motivation or bring about more enthusiasm to make more effort for the year after. ये वही बात है जो सूफी के नज़दीक हर नेमत में भरी है. फुका ने इसको समझाने के लिए अकली रंग में बयान किया है. So I said this concept, as it ends of here, it says this concept, the Fuqaha have tried to sort of explain it, to try and give us an intellectual understanding of this whole concept that the Fuqaha have. But as far as they are concerned, they don't need any proof or explanations. To them, it's axiomatic, it's sort of automatic, it's obvious. They don't have to think about it, that all this is from Allah Ta'ala, and what we are experiencing here is just a namuna, just a model of what is awaiting in Jannah. And therefore, part of the dua is when you eat, Allahumma barik lana fi zidna minhu. Right, our Hazrat says that we are asking that Allah must give us barakat in us, and Allah must increase us in it. So Hazrat says the only place where the ni'mat of this world can increase is in the hereafter. So you actually, by making that dua, you are actually asking for Jannah. Allah barik lana fi zidna. So that's the end of that particular malfuz. Going on to the next one. नकल भी मुशाबत असल की वजह से कबूल है. An imitation of something is also accepted because if it is a imitating the original. If may not be the original, but if something is in imitation of the original, it will also be accepted. That's the subheading. एक सिलसिले गिफ्ट में फरमाया कि बहुत से लोगों को ख्याल होता है कि हमारी नमाज अंदर हुजूर रहे नहीं, फिर क्या कबूल होगी. So the shaitan puts a thought into many people's minds that our mind drifts. When we're making namaz, our mind is drifting. We not have that awareness that we are standing in front of Allah. So what chances are that that type of namaz is going to be accepted? आवाज़ मगर ये ख्याल गलत है. This is a wrong thought, it's a false concept. क्योंकि हमने माना कि हमारी नमाज के दरमियान हिस्से में हुजू नहीं है, लेकिन इब्तिदाई और आखिर में तो है. So, for argument's sake, we'll accept that in between the beginning and the end, your mind is wandering and then you don't have this awareness. But when you start off and you end off, at least those two portions of namaz, you are aware. Because when you stand up, you are making your niyyat. I'm standing here making so many rakats in front of Allah, facing the Qibla. So that awareness is there when you start. And then when you end off, obviously when you make salam, you're making salam to the malaika. Right? Understand? It's making, so that is awareness. You are knowing what you're doing. Right? You're not just looking around here and looking around to the right and left. No, you are actually making salam to the malaika, yeah? And making salam to the malaika on the left side as well. So that part is is uh, is done with awareness. तो दरमियान की भी कबूल हो जाएगी, क्योंकि और आखिर में तो हुजूर है. So Hazrat gives us reassurance, because you have started off with the right foot, so to say, with this awareness, and you ended off with this awareness that you are in front of Allah, you're making namaz, even though your mind may be wandering, then that part that is in between, that will also be accepted. The first part is accepted, and last part is accepted. Our Hazrat reassures us, then the part in between will also be accepted. It doesn't mean now we should allow the mind to wander. Here, Hazrat is speaking where involuntary your mind wanders. You may have problems, you may have this, something may have happened just before you started namaz, and that is now hammering in your mind. So your mind may be distracted in between. But if you started off properly and you ended off properly, inshallah, the portion in between will also be accepted. नीज हमारी नाकिस नमाज हुज़ूर सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम की कामिल नमाज के मुशाबह है. So our namaz is actually a very imperfect namaz. We are actually imitating the perfect namaz that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made. इस मुशाबह की वजह से पूरी उम्मीद कबूलियत है, because we are trying hard to try and follow the example of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then we have full hope, our Hazrat says, that our namaz will also be accepted. उसकी ऐसी मिसाल है कि आप किसी रईस के यहाँ मुलाकात को गए. Our Hazrat gives the example of this, that you went to some wealthy person to go and meet him. वहाँ एक अलमारी में देखा कि सेब अंगूर केले रखे हुए हैं, and then you saw there was a showcase there, and in the showcase there were some grapes and bananas and apples. उनको देखकर आपको ख्याल हुआ कि ये सच में के फल हैं. In your mind you haven't seen anything else before, and you see it and say, well, he's put some fruit out here in front, और शायद किसी को ये वसवस भी गुजर जाए कि ये रेस अब मुझे खिलाएंगे. And some people may even find their mouths watering and say, he's going to come and he's going to offer me that fruit that's in the showcase. लेकिन बजाय उसके इन्होंने कहना शुरू किया कि ये फल सब मिट्टी के हैं. So before he could say anything, the rich person, the wealthy person comes and sees him looking at the fruit, and he says, this is all made of porcelain. This is not real fruit, this is just imitation. It's made of porcelain. I don't know if people still have this, but when we were young, this was a very popular ornament that people used to have in their showcases, imitation fruit made of porcelain. हमने उन पर बनाने वाले को 100 रुपये इनाम दिएंगे. And he continues that the person who made this artificial fruit, we rewarded him with 100 rupees. तो देखिए ये मसनूई फल काम की नहीं है, न खाने के न कुछ बनाने के. So our Hazrat says, look at this imitation fruit, it's of no use. You can't eat it, nor can you make use of it for anything else, except maybe as a paperweight, I don't know. लेकिन चूंकि उसमें ये कारीगरी है कि असल के मुशाबह हो रहे हैं, इसलिए इनाम दिया जा रहा है. But because it is the imitation of the uh, original and it has got some artistry in it, therefore the person who made it is been rewarded for it. इसी तरह हमारी नमाज में गो हकीकत नहीं है. So similarly in our namaz, even though it may not be at that level, there may no reality in our namaz, लेकिन मुशाबत तो है. But there is an imitation. We are attempting to make namaz according to the original. बस उम्मीद है कि उस मेहनत की कदरदानी की जाएगी जिस तरह के उस रईस ने मसनूई फल की कदरदानी की. So we have full hope that just like that rich person valued that imitation fruit, that whatever we present to Allah Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala will also value what we are presenting to Him. So this is very reassuring, very reassuring, uh, and this applies to everything else, obviously, not only to namaz, but the way we eat, the way we dress, the way we do business. If we try in our own way to try it according to the Sharia, bearing this in mind that we are doing this on what basis? On what basis are we doing it? On the basis that we've been taught. And what are we being taught? We are taught what Rasulullah brought down to us. So we are actually, whether it was in madrasa or by the khanqa or wherever else, you learn something from your sheikh, you are actually learning something which your sheikh is trying to portray to you from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's on that basis that our Hazrat says that inshallah Allah Ta'ala value our our efforts, no matter how many shortcomings there are in it. This is Kissa. Tomorrow is a holiday, so I may go a few minutes beyond. But this Kissa we've heard before, and it's very interesting, and it has got a number of lessons in it. इल्म बड़ी दौलत है गौज़ पाक का वाक़या. Knowledge is of great value. It's a great treasure. It's a wealth. And our Hazrat mentions the kiss of गौज़ पाक Hazrat अब्दुल कादिर जिलानी फरमाए कि इल्म भी बड़ी दौलत है. एक मरतबा शेख अब्दुल कादिर जिलानी रहमतुल्लाह गौज़ पाक सफ़र में थे. Once Hazrat Abdul Qadir Jilani rahmatullah, who is also known as गौज़ पाक, was on a journey. औलिया के मुतक़िबीन सफ़र में बहुत रहे हैं. The awliya from the old days, they were in suffer quite a bit. We read the case of Adam and Ibrahim bin Adam and many others. They were traveling quite a bit in those days. And इसमें इस्लाम वो इफादतन अपना और दूसरों का नफ़ा था. And I just mentioned the reason why, that in traveling they found that it helped them in their Islam and it increased them in their spirituality, in their ruhaniyat, and there was benefit in them traveling for themselves and for others as well. So to continue to Hazrat रोज़ पाक सफ़र में थे. शिद्दत की प्यास लगी पर पानी चलाशा मगर नहीं कहीं न मिला. खुश्की बहुत थी. So on traveling he felt thirsty, and the thirst was quite intense, and he looked around for water but he couldn't find any water. And now he was also getting all dry, he was getting a bit dehydrated, so to say. कि अचानक एक बदली जाहिर हुई, फिर उसमें एक बदन जाहिर हुआ, उसमें एक हाथ निकला जिसमें एक साफ शिफाफ ग्लास था। फिर आवाज़ आई कि ले अब्दुल कादिर। So suddenly there was a cloud that came, and a figure was seen emerging from it, and a hand came out, and in the hand was a very crystal clear glass with water in it, and a voice came and says, Abdul Qadir, here, take. हजरत गौस पाक की जो नज़र उठी तो देखा कि ग्लास पर चांदी का है. When he looked up, he saw that the glass, the tumbler, was made of silver. फरमाया कि ये ग्लास चांदी का मालूम होता है. He told himself, it seems that this tumbler, this glass, drinking glass, is made of silver, और इस आने में चांदी का इस्तेमाल नाजायज़ है. And in this dunya, it is not permissible to make use of silver utensils. मालूम होता है कि ये शैतानी धोखा है. It appears to me this is one of the tricks of shaitan. और ला हौला पर, and he read ला हौला वला कुव्वता इल्ला बिल्लाहिल अज़ीम. बस ला हौल पढ़ना था कि वो अबर माँ जिस्म वगैरह के सब गायब हो गया. The moment he had wala hawla wala quwwata illa billahi al-azim, that cloud and the body and the hand and everything just disappeared. चाहते हुए शैतान ने कहा कि जा अब्दुल कादिर, आज तुझे तेरे इल्म ने बचा दिया. So as this thing started disappearing, Shaitan, who was behind this whole thing, told him, well, boy, you're lucky, so to say. Your knowledge saved you. Your knowledge saved you. गौसे पाक ने फरमाया कि अरे शैतान, चाहते चाहते भी मुझे गुमराह करना चाहता है. So what would we say when shaitan compliments us on our knowledge? Yeah, man, yeah, I've got knowledge, man. Who are you? That would be our attitude, right? But what would Abdul Qadir Jami says, shaitan, even though you are defeated and although you are running away, you're still trying to trick me. You're still trying to lead me astray. मुझे मेरा इल्म क्या बचाता है. Where can my knowledge save me? मुझे मेरे खुदा ने बचा लिया. Allah has saved me. Yeah, to fit it in with what we read previously, the awliya, immediately they realize from Allah. They don't look at the external thing. Immediately they realize that all this scenario is Allah Ta'ala's test for him, and the knowledge was from Allah, and it's the knowledge from Allah that saved him. क्योंकि इसने फ़ाइल होने की निस्बत इल्म की तरफ की थी, और ये ज़ौक़ तौहीद में शिर्क के मुशाबा है. So the shaitan tried to direct him towards his ilm, that his ilm saved him. And person who is got this ذوق for tawheed, somebody who's immersed in tawheed, is submerged in tawheed, to them this is shirk. Right? Just like when I was a young doctor, some buzuruk told me, don't ever think you cure anybody. And this is actually what we are taught in medical school, that you give this medicine and you'll cure this and you cure that and you'll cure that, and the doctor cures everything. But this person said, this is shirk. I was at home in Lens, and it was still young, and I hardly knew anything about the tasawwuf, but he pointed this out to me, it stuck with me. It's not a doctor who cures. It's not a doctor who cures. The doctor gives a medicine, but it's Allah who cures. Right? So if we say the doctor cures, then of course we are making shirk. We are giving the doctor the attribute of being able to cure, that is, it's only Allah who cures. So for them, this is shirk, to attribute to any asbab the attributes, the sifats of Allah. इसलिए वो इस पाक ने ये फरमाया That is why Hazrat Qasem Pak Rahmatullah mentioned that, but in our ordinary day-to-day life, वरना बेदर्जा asbab ilm zariya amal ka hai. But because this is word of asbab, of means, that ilm will be considered to be an aid to his amal, to his actions. So देखिए ilm कितनी बड़ी दौलत है. So this is, just look at this particular incident and see how great that knowledge was to him, how beneficial it was to him. कि शेख इल्म की बेदौलत शैतान के मकर से बच गया. That Hazrat Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, because of his knowledge, he managed to escape, or he saved from the deceit and the tricks and the traps of shaitan. So that's the end of that particular Mahfuz. A lot of other lessons in it as well, but we'll leave it at that. Inshallah, we'll continue next week. Khuda Hafiz.